having to drop candidates, who weren't measuring up, that was always a hard choice for me because it's everything they wanted. It's everything they thought they were destined to be.
You're not talking about the ones that quit. You're talking about the ones
that I had to drop for performance or character or something like that. It was always really hard. I used to say I'm the killer of dreams, and that's hard to come home to at the end of the day. My sister-in-law corrected me. She said, no, you're the killer of self-delusion.
We can never compromise this training. This is the training that puts these warriors in temper of spirit that we're going to go sleep peacefully at night.
That's right.
Because of that.
Training for warfare and going to war, there is no more dangerous job out there. And you don't train for war by being totally safe. While we should never accept death as the cost of doing business, we must also somehow reconcile the fact that it is a statistical inevitability. It's going to happen.
Just hours after finishing a grueling training, 2 Navy SEAL candidates were rushed to the hospital.
When Kyle died, one of the first conversations I had with my boss was, hey, I was in command. I understand what that looks like. If you need a sacrificial lamb, if the community needs me to hang for this, I'm willing to do that for the love of the Trident, for the love of our community. So I acknowledged that and offered it. However, it needs to be on truth. Mm-hmm. So when they started lying about it all and then using that as the reason to come after me, so I said, no, that's absolutely not going to happen.
Welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Show. Huge treat for you today. My friend, Captain Brad Geary, United States Navy SEAL Commander, and we're going to get into all kind of things. You may or may not have seen Brad's story on 2 episodes of the Sean Ryan Show.
That's right,
Yeah, 2 episodes of the Sean Ryan Show. If you hadn't, I'd definitely encourage you to go back after you finish this one first. Go back and listen to those 2 episodes that are really all tying together. Sean did a phenomenal job, and Brad just showed tremendous courage. That's something that really, just watching how Brad handled the situation he was in that we're going to talk about today really encouraged me in a lot of areas, and I think it would for you as well. Brad, super excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And get into all things about what you've done and also about what you're going to be doing moving forward.
Appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for having me.
And we have the hero of your story here with us behind the scenes, Amy.
That's right. 100%.
You have an amazing family. I've watched your daughter recently. Made a speech.
That's right.
How'd that feel?
Oh man. Well, yeah, all the kids, I'm so proud of them for, you talk about resiliency and what they've endured, especially our oldest too, through those hard years of military service. But she's particularly artistic and very good with her words. So she's written some songs and she wrote this poem as we're getting close to our retirement. And she said, hey, I want to share my poem with you, Mom and Dad. She's written a few over the years.
Yeah.
So she read it to us, and Amy and I, of course, were pretty choked up hearing it. Yeah. And then Amy suggested, you should read that at Dad's retirement if you're willing and able. And she didn't skip a beat. They say that one of the greatest fears for most Americans, most people, I think, is speaking in front of people in a public forum. And she just stood up and sent it. It was incredible. And we weaved it into the retirement ceremony where she was using that to introduce me as now at my retirement ceremony, my speech. So I was barely holding it together behind her the whole time. Like, oh man, I was so proud. So proud.
Yeah, it was super cool. I saw it. I was like, man, that was special.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people don't think about it. When think about a career like yours, 24 years of special operations, you're the guy, you've done all the hard stuff, the deployments, you've, ate the dirt and lost friends and all the stuff that you go through, but don't realize, we're kind of doing that because we like it. We love that we chose to do it, but our family's along for the ride.
That's right.
And they're the ones enduring.
That's right.
The, Dad being away and my husband being away. And
I've said for years, I've had this very thought, and I think it's unfair for the military to classify our families as military dependents. I think that is a false title, and it sets them up to be relegated and feel a little bit even like less than. You're like you said, you're just along for the ride. That's so untrue. Mm-hmm. They carry as much weight on their shoulders as we do in many different ways. And I've said for years that no, they're not military dependents. They're actually fiercely independent. When you look at all the times we're gone, all the times we have to be mission focused, where you have to put duty first. And then they're left running life, raising kids, dealing with impossible scenarios without Dad home, to help navigate, wicked hard problems. Yeah. My wife was one of 4 sisters. And so we got 2 boys. And so there were many times I was gone off comms, maybe on a submarine for months at a time. And she's raising boys. And she's like, I have no experience in this world. There's a big mystery there.
Yeah.
So what they do as families is absolutely incredible. And in fact, interestingly, for the first time ever, there's now a memorial in Coronado for military families. It's the first memorial ever to represent what families do. And it's built around Sybil Stockdale. So it's great that you brought up the James Stockdale Award, because Sybil Stockdale, his wife, if you've ever read their story in Love and War, what she did on the home front to advocate for POWs in Vietnam at the time changed U.S. policy and absolutely helped influence them getting released down the road. So it's pretty neat that finally some organizations out there are acknowledging the burden that our families carry.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's an essential part of our national security, because, I mean, you've seen both sides, right? You've seen wives that have been incredible supporters, but you've also seen those that haven't.
That's right.
And the impact it makes on, especially if they're a leader, when the command operation, if they have a wife that's not
that's right,
supportive in that role.
That's right.
And so, it's an essential part of operational readiness.
Oh yeah, makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, Amy, thank you for your service to America. I know you guys. Congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah.
And now you get to actually enjoy them.
Yes, and we are enjoying it.
Well, so what led you to join the Navy in the first place, especially to be commissioned as a SEAL? Because you, from what I understand, you went in the Navy and went straight to the SEAL teams.
That's right. So I was never interested necessarily in the military growing up. I didn't like the structure of it. I didn't like the idea that people would tell me where to go, what to wear. But I was a swimmer going up through high school, and my swim coach was a history teacher as well. Don Clark, phenomenal guy, phenomenal man in my life. And so I had a great junior year at swimming, and some colleges started sending me recruitment letters, and the Naval Academy was one of them. And I didn't even know what it was. I thought at the time, like, what is this? They teach you how to drive boats? Like, this seems ridiculous. Why would I ever do this? I had no idea, literally zero idea. And my coach, like, Brad, no. Like, this is a huge opportunity. Please write them back and at least look into it, at least consider what they have going on out there. And the more I read about it, the more I liked. I was seeing a lot of college graduates come out of college and come back home and live with mom and dad and get entry-level jobs and have higher expectations than what I think they were getting a return on with an undergraduate degree. What I liked about the Naval Academy was, they pay for your school. That's nice. Pretty good educational institution up there in Maryland. And then I liked the fact that they commission you and you have a guaranteed 5 years of leadership development and experience in the fleet. That sounded exciting to me. Like, oh, wow. Experience matters more than education, I think, in a lot of ways.
For sure. Yeah.
And when you have them together, that's even better. And so that sounded interesting to me. And I thought, well, I could go do this, knock that out, do my 5 years, still be a young man, and yet now have a great experience base to go do other things. And that was kind of my plan was, all right, let's go do this. That's great. Do 5 and out, and we'll go from there.
So at what point in the Naval Academy process did becoming a Navy SEAL?
Pretty early on.
Yeah.
When I went up as a senior, they let you go up and they call it dragging with a freshman. So you kind of get a couple days in the life of, and the guy they partnered me with, his name is Pete Logan. He's now retired as well. Kind of funny. Our stories, how they converged over the years, but, he had a big SEAL poster on the wall. And I was like, oh, what's the deal with that? I think I remember seeing that movie with Charlie Sheen. He's like, oh yeah, they're incredible. Like, so we talked and that was the hook. That was the beginning. Now at the time, my eyes were too bad. I didn't qualify for SEALs. So I kind of shelved that dream for a little bit and decided I was going to go all in on the Marine Corps. But then about halfway through my time there, they started approving laser surgery for the first time ever. And so I put in a waiver request. You had to pay for it yourself back then. So I went home on Christmas break, knocked it out, got the new eyes, and then put my name back in the hat. And then from then on, it just kind of happened. And funny with Pete Logan, we both retired at the same time. So we met back in 1995, both swam together on the swim team. He was the team captain in 99. I was the team captain in 2000. We both went SEALs. And then I spoke at his retirement about 3 months ago. And then he spoke at my retirement about 1 month ago. So our families are tight, very, very close friends.
20 almost 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's really close to 30 years when you factor in the Naval Academy, which I do because we wore uniforms. We had ID cards. Like, we didn't have the freedoms everyone else did. So it's pretty neat to bookend my career with such a close friend and to have remained so close over these years.
Yeah. So a lot of, had a lot of SEALs on this show.
Yep.
Mostly, well, I guess mostly would have went through BUD/S enlisted. So I had a couple of SEAL officers, Mark Green, Jay Redmond.
Yeah.
But they went through as enlisted.
Yeah, because Jay was enlisted and then went OCS or Seaman Admiral or something, right? I can't remember now, but
Mark as well.
That's right.
So I think you're the first guy I had come through. What's it like? I mean, we've heard the BUD stories. What's it like going through as an officer? Is it more pressure?
Yeah. Sure. There's a little more pressure, but the Naval Academy does a great job of preparing you. And I think part of it is you get inoculated to the stressors of Navy life. You're used to wearing a uniform. You're used to getting yelled at a little bit. So those kind of stressors you're good with. And so that helps. But even more than that, they always station at the Naval Academy officers and enlisted from the fleet, from every different warfare specialty, to help lead, coach, and mentor all the students there who are looking to go into whatever it is. So I want to be a pilot. I want to be a submariner. I want to be a Marine, whatever. And so they always had a SEAL lieutenant and a senior chief-ish there. And I was very fortunate to have some great leaders at the Academy who had a very good kind of success statistics in prepping us cognitively for what BUD/S is going to look like and physically as well. And so over time, what we've seen is the Naval Academy has a very high success rate. Whoever they decide we're sending to BUD/S, or get selected out of that commissioning source, do statistically much better than anyone else. Okay. And I think those are the reasons why.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of preparation. I mean, preparation is everything. It is. And so you show up at BUD/S prepared, and your chances of passing are a lot higher.
And understanding the culture is an important part too.
Right.
I would never say one service component's better than any others, but they're all different cultures.
Yes.
And so you may have a phenomenal leader over here that thrives in the submarine force that wouldn't thrive in the SEAL community, and vice versa. And so having those SEALs at the Academy, you get exposure to that culture. You start seeing how they interact, and you can kind of decide too, like, hey, this is a good fit for me personality wise, I think. Mm-hmm. And now you put your submission in, and then they tell you whether they think you're a good fit for their culture as well. They're very, very good at letting you know what they think.
So you served at multiple SEAL teams.
Yeah.
But you also did 2 tours as a leader at SDV 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked much about it on the show, the SDV.
Yeah. No one talks about
SEAL
it
delivery
much.
vehicles. I'm fascinated with that job.
Yeah.
I love the water.
Yeah.
I love diving.
So do I.
Love combat dive operations, but I don't know if I'd like that job. I mean, I guess it depends what your role is. But,
yeah.
But it's fascinating to me. You got, many subs, submersibles that are both, I think enclosed and unenclosed, and I'm not sure what.
That's right.
I know some areas things you can talk about, can't.
Sure.
But I'd love for you to just educate the audience on what SDV operations are and how it's different than what everybody else
absolutely
imagines a Navy SEAL to do.
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and you're right. There's not a lot out there deliberately. It is one of the most clandestine missions our community does, and so very, very, very compartmentalized. So the operations themselves, most people will never hear about. Like, you don't even the regular, like the SEAL teams don't know what SDVs are doing. Great example. When I was an executive officer at our training command, 2 guys came from SDV Team 1 and like E6s, and their award came through. By the time they came to our command, their award had been in the system from what they had done in the Undersea community. And we gave them the awards there in front of the BUD/S compound, and they were Legions of Merit. For those that don't know, like, that's a pretty high award.
Right.
I don't have a Legion of Merit. And these 2 E6s were getting it for an op they did. And the write-up was pretty much, did some really cool things undersea that no one will ever hear about. Congratulations. Here's your Legion of Merit. Sure. And that was pretty much the write-up. So it's very hush-hush. That said, we can talk about what it is in concept. It's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. I've heard guys joke. I think Jay Redmond was joking with you on his episode here, but you'll be colder and wetter in the teams, 100% if you go undersea, if you go SDV, but it makes you hard as nails as well. So it's a very slow, methodical, patient mission set, which just takes time underwater to accomplish. It's the same type of missions that the regular SEAL teams do and DEVGRU does, but it's at a smaller scale because you can only fit so many people in the back of these things. So think long range reconnaissance type operations, sneaky peeky, you're in, you're out. No one knows you're there, hopefully. And you can get to some really denied areas of the world when you go underwater. You know, we launch these things from submarines sometimes.
So in a mini submersible, right? Because they're less detectable.
And they fill with, I mean, like you said, we have a dry one in our inventory now. That's unclassified. It's out there. But for the majority of our existence, it's been a wet submersible, which basically means you're in an enclosed tube that fills with water, and it's powered, and it's got electronics and some sonar stuff on it. And you can bring different payloads with you wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. And that mission's evolved over the years, depending on technology, warfare, munitions, all the things. And so it involves SEALs and divers sometimes getting in these things, filling with water, and off you go for as long as you can stand underwater. Depending on, of course, temperature and air. Those are our limiting factors. And
then you get warm suit. Do you guys use warm suits?
So we do
warm water suits.
We do. We go back and forth on which ones we use depending on the mission. And there's pros and cons to it all. You know, when you measure out risk to mission, risk to force, you know, the better insulation you have, the better your risk to force is. But saltwater electronics don't go well. And if you're wearing a dry suit and you get one puncture in a dry suit, well, that's a mission kill. So it's a high risk to mission when you're when you're doing that. Sometimes it's necessary, but you're always weighing those risks as we decide how are we going to equip the guys for this op? How miserable is it going to be? How much misery can they endure? One of my favorite stories I like to tell about resiliency. So it actually works out really well.
Yeah.
When I was the commander of SDV Team 1 out in Hawaii, we were developing a new capability, and I can't go too much into it, but the idea is that with these new types of suits, we were going to be able to dive longer in colder water, but it was all experimental. So we were proposing this new concept, which is going to open the aperture for where we could go and what we could do. And this had presidential level awareness. It was a game changer. But as we're talking about it, I said, hey guys, this is all theory. So we reached out to Navy Experimental Diving Unit and said, hey, what's the data on this? What are the stats on human survivability in really, really cold water for really long times? And they said, there is none. No one's really ever done this, what you guys are talking about doing here. So we said, I told the guys, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to ask people to do. I said, hey, if we're going to talk about this concept, we have to prove we can do it to the president. So we're going to have to show him we can do it. And so what does that mean? I said, well, we're going to bring in a big refrigerator, and we're going to cool our pool down in Hawaii on Oahu down to 34 degrees, big concrete pool. And then we're going to need you guys to sit in there for 9 to 10 hours and do a dive in a concrete pool, just staring at a brick wall. And then we're going to bring in these PhD experts who are going to put sensors all over you, and they're going to assess your core temp the whole time. And then we're going to bring you up every hour or so and do a quick iPad kind of cognitive test to see if your cognitive processing slows down or if that's danger. So we can characterize and quantify the risk if we want to actually advertise we can do this capability. And, it's this quiet room as all these dudes are looking at me. They're like, you want us to do a 9 to 10 hour dive in a concrete pool in 34 degree water? I'm like, yeah, it's going to suck. And this one senior enlisted guy just stands up. He's like, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
If we're going to advertise the capability, we got to do it, dudes. And so they rallied and they did it. And I don't think I've ever seen in my life dudes show more resiliency than that. You talk about going to a dark place.
Well, yeah, it's not even the cold, right? It's the mental.
Everything.
Just being in. There's no communication,
dude. So we do have underwater comms, which is great.
That's
but
you're in your mind a lot, though.
But it's miserable, and you're just your mind. I mean, 10 hours, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
No TVs, nothing like that. And so I put on my wetsuit and a scuba tank and went in with them for about an hour or two. And I went down there. One guy's down there with an Rubik's Cube, just trying to keep his mind busy. Two other dudes had like a lacrosse ball. I think it was heavy enough that they were just passing it back and forth from like you to me underwater. And they did it. And they came up at the end of it. We had a bunch of pizza. We're celebrating. They were telling jokes. It was so impressive to see the level of resiliency and resolve and just commitment to the nation, really. Like, we're going to endure this suffering with no real return on that. No promise of a return. Right. We don't know if we're going to go get an op that does this stuff, but this is a capability that we want to show the nation we were willing to do for them. It was just it blew my mind. I've never been more proud.
Is that the longest? What's the longest you've seen the SDV guy underwater?
The longest I've heard of is about 14 hours, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the longest one I've heard of. Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's a long time.
Time goes a lot slower.
A lot
when
slower.
You're underwater.
And what people don't realize too is you could be diving in the Caribbean, but if that water is not the same as your core temp, over time you're going to get hypothermic.
Yes.
It could be 95-degree water. It's like a hot bath, but over time, next thing you know, you're jackhammering, and it is absolutely excruciating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you that a lot of the SDV guys that I've met have been some of them are a little weird. So
Yes.
you're probably the most normal one I've met.
Yeah, that's funny. It's true. I mean, you've got to be not quite right in the head to willingly endure that kind of suffering, because you don't have to go SDVs. You can avoid it your whole career.
Okay.
I say that SDVs they're kind of like the development group of Undersea. Mm-hmm. That's how we should think of them. It's not like everyone knows what development group is, and it's this tier 1 premier unit that does all these great things, but it's a very small slice of the pie. What they're great at, the Undersea piece. Yeah, no one can touch what SDVs does. They are world class, the absolute best. What a privilege that I was able to do both of those commands in my career and see such expertise in different realms and vastly different cultures too. That's a very interesting thing I saw as well.
Very, yeah.
I mean, your culture as an organization is very much defined by what's your priority. And like DEVGRU, if your priority is hostage rescue, time-sensitive targeting, counterterrorism missions, well, that's what does well there. That personality that thrives in that kind of environment does well there. So that becomes your culture. We've said it before, wolves with table manners is what DEVGRU likes and looks for. Not my quote. Preston Klein said that one from Mission Critical Teams Institute. Phenomenal human being, great insights. But in contrast, Undersea, it is not time-sensitive targeting. It is slow, methodical, deliberate, months of planning, rehearsing with the submarine force. The rapport you need to build with the submarine force to go execute a mission is insane levels of planning and rehearsals. So very, very slow, very, very patient, very, very deliberate, completely different organizational cultures.
Yeah. Again, I'm fascinated by it. Thanks for sharing it.
Of course.
So
it was fun.
So you've done, you also did SEAL Team 4, but then you were troop commander at Naval Special Warfare Development Group.
That's right.
Won't say the other name, but we've had presidents that have slipped up and said it. But it is one of two of the premier special operations units, not just in our country, in the world, and in a service in the command element there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, an incredible accomplishment for you in your career, and I mean to lead some of the most elite warriors on the planet.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, got to have a role in supporting work in there. And, and my observation is the individuals that work there are the most high level professionals that I've ever been around. That was blown away. I mean, I'd heard before going in to go there and you see it. It's like, wow, these guys are the real deal. And,
it's very impressive. Yeah.
And the capability in so officers as well, everybody goes to green team and you do another year of training. And then you get selected. And what's for an officer there? What's the kind of path, the career path? Yeah.
So, there's a lower ratio of officers there in like a SEAL troop there than there are at regular SEAL teams. I mean, it's pretty much you. So, at a regular SEAL team, if you're a troop commander, well, you've got 2 platoon commanders under you. And then underneath them, they've got a couple assistant officers in charge as well. So as you know, that's a lot of opportunities to delegate some work down,
right.
We're going to professionally develop you, young junior officer. Let me give you some of this work, administrative, whatever, planning, mission planning, whatever. At DEVGRU, you're it, man. The troop commander is the lowest officer on the totem pole there. So you come out of green team, you jump into a troop there and you're the guy running that troop. I shouldn't say running that troop. You're the guy in command of that troop.
Right. You got the chiefs.
The troop chief. Run. Yeah. A really good friend of mine characterized it very well. He says, you control the mission. Your troop chief controls the men. And I like the way he describes that. Now the men are part of the mission. So you're in command of that. The buck stops with you. You're the decision maker, but your troop chief is running the men and the different team leaders, and they have the autonomy on the battlefield. Whereas you have overall command of the mission. to include all the maneuver elements, air, ground, your troops, whatever. So very, very fun, very fast paced. And there's a lot on your shoulders as a troop commander there. Like I said, no one really to delegate down to. It's kind of you. So a lot of mission planning, a lot of late nights, and a lot of deployments.
I mean, but there's a lot of things you don't have to deal with that you would deal with as an officer at a vanilla SEAL team. I don't know, that's an insulting word to say.
It's funny. It comes up. I mean, I don't think it's insulting to say, but some people have over time interpreted it as offensive. And so
same as enabler, right? Enabler sounds bad.
Right. But it's like, no, essential, man. Right? Yeah. And I'll be quite frank. There are some things that the regular SEAL teams do better than development group.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's not that one is better or worse. It's that Dev Group is funded and manned to be the best in the world at, like I said, this very small piece of the pie. Yeah. So they're the best at that stuff 100% because they dedicate the time and resources to it.
It's very laser focused.
They're laser focused. And that doesn't make them the best at everything. And that's a misnomer that a lot of people get. They'll be like, oh, he's a Dev Group SEAL. He's the best at everything now. No, it's just not true. Love those dudes. And hopefully they're not offended by me saying that, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
I've worked with them all, SEALs, SEAL teams, Undersea, and Dev Group. And man, no one's the best at everything.
Right.
Like, so, and to include when you talk SEALs versus, Rangers and Green Berets and everything else, dude, any given day, no one's the best at
Everybody
anything.
has a different mission, different skill sets. All those jobs are different. Special operations is not one thing.
Know your lane, be the best at it.
Yeah. Well, when I say vanilla SEAL teams, I mean the traditional SEAL teams,
tracking.
right? So the leadership there can be different because now you're dealing with young guys getting in trouble.
Yeah,
like you're not dealing with a lot of that at Dev Group.
That is absolutely true. You have to be a couple years in the SEAL teams. I think as an enlisted guy, you have to do 2 platoons. So you're at least 4 years into being a SEAL post the 64-week pipeline program before you can even screen for Dev Group. And as an officer, I think it's even a little bit longer timeline-wise the way it works. So yes, you end up getting a force that's kind of worked out all their young mistakes, their immaturity. The human brain's not done developing till like 25. And I think in some dudes, it's closer to like 35.
Yeah.
So I think the average age of Dev Group is like 33 is the average operator. So you get a more mature force. They're looking at it from a seasoned perspective for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause that, as a officer, better than me, you spend a lot of your time dealing with people problems,
liberty incidents. Yes.
So that you deal with less there. That's with at the command, you're out there hunting the most wanted terrorists in the world. That's at least in the last 25 years, I think that's what the command's primarily been focused on. Yeah. And what's it like leading in that capacity? Like to know that you're responsible for going after the world's most wanted terrorist.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's intoxicating. I've talked a little bit about this over the years. I imagine it's like being on one of the most proficient, like high-end sports teams in the world where there's that flow where everyone knows their job. Everyone's working together well. They're not competing with each other as much as they are complementing each other and working together as a team at a very, very fast pace. But at a command like that, it's with high stakes. Yes. And so it's incredibly intoxicating, and it's just fun to be a part of that. It's humbling, but it's fun to be a part of that and know that I have a role here and I'm contributing to this awesomeness. And it's just you get so sucked into it. One guy said it really well. It's probably a little offensive, but he said this place is like heroin. He didn't take heroin, so I don't think he really knows. But he said I imagine it's like addictive. Heroin. Yeah, like. I know it's probably bad for me in the long run because I'm just going, but, and I plan to quit one day, but after the next hit. And I like the way he framed that because it's fun. It's great. It's a great season of life. I've talked a lot about how hard that is though to sustain over the years and how, I think when you're doing dark work, even for a noble cause over time, that dark work can have dark consequences, and it can start to affect the human and the brain and your psyche and your personality. And I saw that with myself. I saw it with some of my teammates.
It changes the culture.
It does. It does. It does. It does. And so it's necessary work. It's noble work. It's virtuous work. There are evil people in this world that need to be hunted down 100%. But it comes at a cost. And I think I hope that's what the American public recognizes. And when they say thank you for your service, I hope that's what they acknowledge, that, hey, it wasn't just the time away. This came at a very high human cost for these guys. And I didn't even do half the time that some of my friends have done there. I mean, by the time I even got there, the guys I was leading in my troop, the guys I was in command of in my troop, some of them already had double-digit deployments to Afghanistan. So I'm rolling with these guys like, golly, dude, you've been doing this dark work for a long time.
Yeah.
And some of them held up with incredible resiliency over a decade plus.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And some of them didn't. There's a cost.
Yes.
Your marriages failed. Some guys became alcoholics, over the years, for sure. Especially as they leave that place. You've talked about this with a lot of guys, as that becomes part of your identity because you go all in on this. It really does become part of your identity. Dudes get the tats. Yep. We go all in on the culture.
It's impossible to transition away from. They feel it's impossible to transition.
And it is. It really is. It's incredibly difficult. So it's a great place. It's a great place. Well,
one of the things, my exposure being involved there was that blew me away was the capability and assets.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the question I was going to ask earlier. I just didn't know how to ask it, and it's kind of hitting me now. What makes it a unit like that classified as tier 1 or SMU, a special missions unit? It's the capability, right?
Yeah.
That's what classifies it.
It's a great question. It's a doctrinal term. It's not just the capability. Dang, dude, I'm going to mess this one up, but it's something about being, it becomes a priority manned, equipped, and funded unit. Like in the Navy, we call it a CNO Priority 1 Command, where hey man, they get pick of the litter. If they decide, if that command decides we want this person, you're going there.
Right.
Assuming you say, you can't be forced to go there, but
right.
So you become the priority fill. You become the priority resource. And you are the president's button, hey, we're in an emergency. We need this asset. We need this capability. And so you are on that recall status, and everyone else exists to support you when you're the supported command.
And they have everything in-house there.
I mean, not at DEVGRU proper, but within the JSOC enterprise. Yes.
Right.
And that's what impressed me too, is it's not just the SEALs. You even talk to the guys who did the UBL raid, and they'll be like, yeah, man, it was like any other night on any other target, just happened to be where it was and who it was for. It's all the other assets that rally there to get the shooter to the X. I saw that once where we were looking at a hostage rescue operation, and I happened to be the operations officer at this time. So I had to pull together all the assets and the resources and come up with the plan. And we sent out like an email like, hey, this is going to be a time sensitive thing. If it gets approved by the president, we need a call to planners like now. And like within 24 hours, you had all these other components of the community all come to Virginia Beach in this massive planning conference, like the best in the world at everything, right? At flying ISR, at flying helos, at heavy movement, lift capabilities, operators, technicians, support, everyone. And their best are all in this room, like looking at me like, okay, let's go. And like, oh my gosh, like this is intimidating.
Yeah.
But it was so awesome to just be a part of that and say, okay, you're the best at this, you're the best at this, you're the best at this, you're the best at this. Let's come together, come up with a cohesive plan that involves all of us, that is a manageable risk. And we think is a good proposal to send forward to say, yeah, we think we can do this or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, like I said, I've never been at CAG, but I don't know any other place that I've been exposed to that has that level of expertise, capability, resources. I mean,
it's amazing.
Even one time I was down there and they were doing a motorcycle course.
Yeah.
And they had Jeremy McGrath.
Yeah.
At the time was like the world motocross champion down there. Like, it's like.
Oh yeah. It's funny, man. You joked at the beginning, like we won't say it by the other name. The secret's out. Everyone knows who they are. So there's some name brand advantages there to being there too, because people like that want to be a part of it. And so when someone from that command calls you, if you're the world expert in fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we're exploring this new capability. We'd love to learn from you because you're the best, whatever, motorcycle rider or big wave surfer, in a jet ski or something. And we need to learn that, what you've learned. They love to help there. And so we end up that command ends up getting a lot of world-class experts to just help out, which is super fun.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
What everybody wants to hear, me included, is there within your ability to talk about it, is there an operation that you could share that just kind of highlights how amazing the men you led?
Yeah. I've talked a little bit about it. It's not even that. I think what's so amazing is the creative problem solving that I've seen at that command, and this idea to go against conventional norms, to think through creative solutions to problems, and their willingness to say no if, hey man, this exceeds our risk threshold. Or
so important.
Yeah, dude. Wyman Howard used to say it so well. I love this. He was the DEVGRU commander once, and then he was our admiral. And he used to say, if you can't say no, your yes means nothing. And I was like, daggum, I like that. And that's one thing that place is really good at. And I've talked about that in some other forums. So that's more than just their tactical expertise. That's the stuff that impressed me the most, was the professionalism to be able to say no, or not yet, or we need to develop that capability before we get to yes. The operations themselves, mirroring what those guys said about the UBL raid, half the time you're like, okay. I mean, it's so smooth because your guys know what they're doing, and they're so creative. They don't let themselves get forced into a scenario that's going to put their life at risk sometimes. Like, obviously they take risks, serious risks. Yeah. But it's stuff I wish I can't get into details, because they'd be like, well, you're exposing a TTP. But it's like, whereas someone else would be like, well, I guess that bad guy's in that room. We got to go through that door. Do you? Mm-hmm. Or are there other solutions? What are some other options we might have? Let's take a tactical pause. Let's take a knee outside the target. We got all the time in the world right now. Let's solve this problem. Do we have a dog? Do we have robotics? Mm-hmm. Do we have demo? What do we have? What other tools do we have that we can maneuver against this and not get forced ourselves into this like fatal funnel of going through the door and getting shot at, where that enemy is going to pretty much hit who he shoots at. So that is what blew my mind the most, was just, and it never ceased to amaze me.
That's experience that does that, right?
It really is.
I remember back in 2004, if there was a bad guy in a room, they're blowing the door, they're going in the room and getting in a gunfight. But then after a few years, it was like, why don't we just call them out? And that became, right. And that became a tactic, right? They're like, and it's funny because in war, it's so high stress. It's so intense. These novel ideas, which sometimes like some guy will think of something and everyone looks around like, how come we didn't think of that sooner? Exactly. Like, we've been doing this for a long time. It's hard to put yourself in the shoes of a warfighter and realize that, hey man, when bullets are flying, like, your brain doesn't have a lot of free space to go through creative thought processes here. It's very it's a lizard brain. It really whatever is. You input it in your limbic system and training, it's going to happen.
That's right. You default to let me get on my gun and run toward that. And so the discipline and the maturity to do I have to run in there right now, or can we wait a few minutes? What's my decision space right now? That's what blew me away. And that only comes with maturity. It only comes with experience. And it comes with, unfortunately, a lot of Purple Hearts, because that's how we learn these things in war. Like, why did we do it that way? That dude didn't have to get shot up. We could have done it this way and that wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. Let's start doing it that way, or at least try it, see what happens. So I saw with them a very, a willingness to experiment on the battlefield, which was fun. And it's fun to be a part of. And you see a very quick evolution. But you said experience. It's not just experience. It's experience coupled with autonomy. It's dudes feeling like they have the autonomy to try that.
Which is very unique at that command.
Very unique. I mean, I remember one guy, we had these old systems. You remember, it was like inside the vehicles, laptops with wires and cables and antennas hooked to comms and batteries. And it was this monstrosity of just junk just to get a laptop with your nav plan up on it, with real-time movement, in a sense, what we do now on our iPhones, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you pull up Apple Maps or Waze. And this was about the time smartphones and iPads were like really hitting the market. And one of our guys was like, why don't we just mount an iPad into these vehicles and get, the software to put a satellite puck up there and track our stuff. It'd be way easier than all this other stuff we've been doing. Someone's like, well, we can't do that. Well, why? Well, because there's a policy against it. Okay. What if we just get a waiver to the policy? And everyone's like scratching their heads like, I guess we could ask. And so he did. He asked, he pioneered this idea of mounting iPads in vehicles. And all of a sudden we just cleaned up our entire nav process, all the equipment that can go, bad in an op, into something that was ruggedized, easy to use. And by the way, you get out of the vehicle, you can just pop it right off and you're not leaving anything behind that's could be compromised. That guy ended up getting out and he's now doing that for like motocross events real time now. Like he has his own company. It's incredible. But just the experience coupled with the autonomy to make decisions to try new things is what I think makes that place great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is in kind of the development group name.
I mean, it's there. It's right there. The sad part is most of the time, there's no reason why other units couldn't have that same autonomy. Mm-hmm. There really is no reason. We become as a military sometimes, it's the largest bureaucracy in the world, so it's understandable.
Right.
But a bureaucracy becomes inundated with policies and procedures. And so over time, those just build on top of each other to where you create this system of like, hey man, allow ourselves to constrain ourselves. Mm-hmm. When you start asking questions, why can't we do it this way? Why can't we do it that way? Well, because there's a policy about it. Okay.
Change the policy.
Yeah. If that's keeping us from being more effective on the battlefield, why are we following that policy? Well, there was a reason years ago. Can anyone articulate it? Well, maybe not, but maybe it's irrelevant today. But good luck finding a commander out there, by the way, having been one twice now, a commanding officer, who's going to cancel a policy. Well, because that's risk. Well, if I cancel a policy,
you're responsible.
I'm responsible. And if something goes wrong and there's a huge investigation and it comes back and they find out that I canceled a policy, well, that policy existed for a reason, Brad, And so what you very rarely see is anyone canceling policies. What you always see is adding more policies. And that becomes entirely restrictive when you start talking about battlefield and the evolution of tactics. I mean, we're seeing right now in Ukraine, the evolution of warfare is on like a 30-day cycle. I've heard from guys who've been there. What
we've seen there is kinetic and ground warfare will never be the same.
Never. Yeah. And it's on a 30-day learning cycle. Yeah. They're evolving that fast. The United States Department of Defense is on a 5-year POM cycle. What that means is if I have a requirement already established, which takes months, and if that requirement is approved and validated, which takes months, then I can start competing for resources for that capability. But if I want to get that funded, that takes about a 5-year cycle of approvals.
When the battlefield is changing every 30 days.
Yeah, dude, we're irrelevant in that fight unless we can figure out how to evolve faster.
Yeah. When you talk, as soon as you put drones and AI on the battlefield, I mean, I can imagine being, a kinetic force and somebody launches drones and all of their warfighters have something on them that's the drone recognizes.
Yeah.
Kill everybody, but these guys.
That's right.
It doesn't matter where you're going to hide.
No, dude, there's no hiding.
Yeah, there's no hiding. There's no tactics.
Better. Yeah, it's only getting better.
Yeah. Well, let's shift to BUDS. You're commander of BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition School or training. It's where, for those who don't know, this is if you want to be a Navy SEAL, the doorway is BUDS.
That's right. And Navy SEAL or SWCC, our Special Warfare Combat Crewmen. That is the pipeline. That is the Navy A school. So you go to boot camp and then you come to us. It's the one-stop shop to become a SEAL or SWCC. That's right.
Now, over the last 20 years, you guys I've seen this in our community, in a Marine Recon community, we built a pipeline. Yeah. We didn't have it before. It used to be pluck guys out of the fleet. You try it out. Yep. You went to this complete, unofficial HAZE process called Recon Indoctrination Program. Yeah. And then you went to, on to get your MOS later. You'd even operate with, but now war has pushed standardization and a real good pipeline. And now guys right out of boot camp, they go through all this school for a year. They walk out with, jump, dive, free fall.
Yep.
Recon Marines ready to serve. And you guys have done a very tightened pipeline with SQT.
That's right.
For that.
That's right. It's evolved over the years for sure. Back in the day, BUDS was really it. And then you'd go to a SEAL team and go on a probationary period through SEAL tactical training, get your Trident there. Right around the time I came into the teams, SQT was the new model because they just found hey, well, what's a SEAL at SEAL Team 4 versus SEAL Team 5? There was disparity in what each team thought it meant to qualify someone as a SEAL or a SWCC. So they consolidated all of that back at BUDS. At time it was at Naval Special Warfare Center. Anyway, the idea is that now we have consistency. We have a consistent product that we can deliver to the SEAL teams and the boat teams and really to the American people. And so that started right around the time I was going through training. In fact, I was in SQT, but it was still the beta model where they were like testing it out. So I was the last class to not get our SEAL Tridents out of SQT. I still had to go to my SEAL team and get my bird, which was interesting because I went to SDV school en route, which delayed me. So guys were graduating behind me from the next class, showing up to the SEAL teams with their birds before I even had mine.
Oh, because you went to SQT.
Because I was at the SDV
school.
pipeline. That's right.
Yeah.
So me and one other guy finally get up to Virginia Beach to check into our team. And I think we were the last 2 SEALs to ever get our Tridents awarded at a SEAL team on the East Coast, which is kind of a cool qual to have.
Yeah.
But frustrating at the time.
Did you guys do something special for it? Or?
Yeah, it was like early spring in Virginia Beach. They made us jump in the water, get wet, break a little bit of ice before you get wet. And then it was funny because the XO was there. I think the CO was on a trip or something. The XO was like, okay, I expect no shenanigans, but I will walk away from this and you do you, gents. And then, of course, they just, blood pinned the birds into us. Yeah. And then I think we got a keg and celebrated that way for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of same thing with the goal. We did the goal weighing thing in Recon, and same thing. The officer always kind of like says the same thing, walks off.
Yeah,
everybody goes nuts.
Yeah,
and then it ended up on CNN too. One of the things.
What a shame too. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say it is a shame. It's a shame that those are traditions.
Yeah,
and it's all willing participants. By the way,
it is,
and it's something that's celebrated and
it
special.
really is. It's like it goes back to these policies, right? It goes back to these ideas that someone messed it up for everyone. They put something out. It took it too far. Obviously, what they were doing was too far. But then all of a sudden, this becomes this big issue. It becomes a political issue, and so it gets shut down for everybody. And so you have a new policy that actually stops something that, for the most part, was a very healthy cultural thing. And it's a bummer, man. It's a bummer when things like that happen. Yeah, we knee-jerk react so often as a bureaucracy to things that hey man, if it's done right, you should be able to keep doing this. And let's be honest, most of these guys, I know for a fact, they'll still graduate today and they'll walk over to their favorite instructor, the one that's the hardest dude in the world that they just want his respect, and like, hey, would you punch it into me? In a room on their own. Just I want you to be the one that punches it in. They're like, Roger that, and they'll do it.
And it has to be done in secret because somebody's getting the
right,
which is crazy.
Right. It's but
Well, this training and one of the things, we got this. Every guest, I think I told you, every guest has a custom.
That's awesome.
Customized background for the show, and this I love this picture. One of the things that we're talking about right now is when I came up in special operations, you had to be around 10 years before you got to do anything like this. Now, I went to 1st Recon Battalion. I had a video of this kid that was, I say kid, man, 20-year-old man who was 20 years old jumping a bundle.
Yeah. It's amazing.
From 20 plus thousand feet.
Oh yeah.
And to have that capability so early on and doing these pipelines, they're able to produce not only a highly trained candidate, but a qualified, fully across the board qualified candidate to be deployable.
The operators we're producing today, light years beyond what I was when I graduated the program. Like the training has evolved and gotten so much better, so much more compressed. The science of teaching, of leading, coaching, and mentoring has gotten so much better that we're way more effective at teaching very complex skills in a faster, shorter period of time. So the war fighters of today just are running circles around dudes like me from 20 something years ago, for sure.
What was the challenges of, I think one of your biggest challenges of of being a commander of certifying or training and certifying, young men to be Navy SEAls?
There's a bunch. That was the hardest tour of my life, for sure. It's also the most rewarding tour of my career.
Tremendous amount of political pressure.
Oh yeah. Pressure everywhere.
Yeah.
And everyone's interested in what's going on at BUD/S. So everyone's always asking questions. Everyone's scrutinizing. Everyone's criticizing. So really, really difficult, but really rewarding. I've said it to dudes, I will go back and do it again in a heartbeat. I loved that experience there. I tell all the guys who are competing for the next CO job there, hey, it's worth it. It's worth it. Even knowing where it took me in my unique case, I would still go back and do it again. Incredible experience. So there's a couple things that were the most difficult for me, and it's different for everybody. But one was having to drop candidates, who weren't measuring up. That was always a hard choice for me because it's everything they wanted. It's everything they thought they were destined to be. Mm-hmm. That was really hard for me to break their hearts there.
You're not talking about kids. You're not talking about the ones that quit. You're talking about the ones
that I had to drop for performance or character or something like that. It was always really hard because I used to say I'm an eternal optimist. I'm now more of a optimistic realist, I think. But I always hoped like we can get him there, like we can train him enough, or I can develop his character, not me. That's hubris, but we can. And just sometimes it's just like, no, dude, some people are just who they are, and they're either not teachable, not trainable, or they don't want to evolve with their characters. So I had to drop them. But it always broke my heart. I used to say I'm the killer of dreams, and that's hard to come home to at the end of the day. My sister-in-law corrected me, which helped. She put it in perspective. She said, no, you're the killer of self-delusion. And you're protecting the community and you're protecting the brand when you tell those people, hey, I'm sorry, this just isn't for you. So that was a really hard one.
Because not everybody can be a Navy SEAL.
No.
We always tell kids, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up.
You can't.
I can't be an NBA player. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That was hard. The other thing that was hard, there was two other things. One, from a friendship perspective, it was always tough when a legacy candidate would come through. So the son of a father who was a SEAL, especially from my generation, and I knew the dudes. And so they always statistically do better. You have a higher rate of success for a legacy kid, ideally, because he's been trained by his dad and he knows what he's getting into. Yeah. But it's still 50-50. And so there's some that don't make it. That was heartbreaking because 9 times out of 10, the dudes that don't make it who are a legacy kid, their dad would blame me. And the phone calls I would get, the vitriol, the hate spewed at me from people that I once considered really, really close friends, teammates, even bosses and mentors, was really hard, and disappointing. You've talked a lot on this show about how we turn these things into idols, what we wear on our chest. It's not what you wear on your chest that makes the man or the woman. And yet seeing some of these dads who I respected as warfighters wrap their identity into their son's accomplishment or failure at BUD/S, or not even failure, choice. Some of these guys are like, hey, it turns out this isn't for me. I'm going to quit. I've said before, there's no shame in that.
Right.
There's no shame in
honor
that.
in trying.
There's honor. And dude, you had the guts to show up in the first place. So there's no shame in choosing a different walk of life. This isn't everything. And like we said, this doesn't make the man. But seeing some of these dads turn to me and be like, you must have run my kid out of the program. You didn't like me, so you ran them out. Or you let things get out of control. That's why my son quit. It's like, no, dude. You remember going through this, 25, 30 years ago. It's hard. I'm sorry your son made a choice, but we have psychs that meet with these guys right after, peel apart that choice every time. It's clean. Hey, just wasn't for me. I was too young. I was too immature. Some of them come back through later, but either way, that was hard. That was hard because I lost some friendships over that one.
Well, Jocko's son went through while you were.
Yes, he did. And I wasn't going to bring that up because I know
it became a SEAL.
He's doing really well.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring that one up. You did. So because I know Jocko, and this is what I love about Jocko. We become friends over the years. I didn't know him early on in my career, but he as a dad approached this in an incredible way. Just hands off. I'm not going to be a helicopter dad. At one point he came out and saw some training and he looked at me. He's like, dang man, this looks hard. He's like, this looks a little harder than I remember. And then he paused and he said, but there's things that are not happening that used to happen also that were way harder than what I'm seeing here too. And I said, exactly. And he said, I think it kind of balances out. I said, I think so too. So he had a very pragmatic approach as he looked at it, and he never put any pressure on us. And he said, "Hey, my son has got to make it on his own merits." And it's interesting because there's people that will say, "Oh, well, when a legacy kid comes through, the instructors will try to run him out or whatever." And I was like, "All right, well, I'd always pay attention to that. I'd go out and watch." And specifically with Jocko's kid, I went out once and I was curious. And I'm waiting to see, they're coming running by the boats. And one of my instructors, unsolicited by me, I didn't even want to bring it up. He's like, "Hey, yo, sir, see that guy? He's one of my favorites." I said, "Oh, why? I'm just curious." He's like, "Well, he's not the fastest or the strongest, but he does his job, keeps his mouth shut, and he keeps his head under the boat. He does his job." I was like, that's pretty cool, man. I respect that. And so I texted Jocko that night, like, "Yo, if someone said this about my kid, I'd want to know." And he's like, "Oh, thanks. That makes me proud." But I know he's very quiet about his son in the teams because I think he, understandably, he wants his son to have his own path. He doesn't want his dad's name to influence anything, and he's making his own way. And I respect that. I respect Jocko's position, and I respect his kid for that a lot. Yeah. Not all dads were like that there.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
So
he's also been, his daughter's like a phenomenal jiu-jitsu competitor. Yeah. So well, he's like, that's one thing about competition.
Yeah.
They have to, your dad's not out there with you. You have to do it in your own merit.
Jocko raised fighters. Yeah. And for the American public out there, he is everything he says he is. I mean, you see what you get with Jocko. There is no alter ego, different personality. That dude is all in all the time. He's incredible. So that was one of the other hard ones, but I was thankful that our relationship went well through that. And then the third one that was probably one of the more difficult ones to navigate, and it comes back to, you said earlier, it's funny, you called someone a kid, and then you said, "Well, not really a kid, an adult." So that's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem. And what I mean is, it's amazing how many people create this perception that this is Boy Scout camp. Let me give you an example. And we do it to ourselves, internal, and everyone does it external. So internal, we had this false allegation against one of our instructors. We had just started the investigation. Turned out to be completely false, demonstrably, provably false. But one of my civilian employees, GS, comes storming in the office, furious, red-faced, yelling and screaming. "Can you believe this crap? I can't believe that your instructors would do this to our students. This is unbelievable. These moms don't send their kids here to get treated this way." So keep in mind, now we know later all the allegations were false. He was jumping to conclusions. He was overreacting. He was speaking out of anger and frustration. And I said, "Hang on a minute. Stop what you got, dude. You're right. Mommies don't send their kids here to get treated this way, because this isn't Boy Scout camp. These are not young boys that come to this program. These are grown adults who make a choice to pursue one of the hardest jobs in the military and become a warfighter. So you're right. Mommies don't send their kids here." So that was already an internal problem.
Men make a choice to come.
They make a choice. And by the way, they're grown men and they're Navy sailors. Certified Navy sailors coming out of boot camp. We had the same problem with senators and congressmen who come visit. They would come. This one female senator came, I think she was a senator, and she's watching our program and she's asking, "Well, how does medical work? And how do these processes work?" There's a lot of interest in our medical there. And it's clean, it's professional, it's actually world class. And so they actually had a medical emergency happen while she's there. Everything happens like clockwork. Boom, boom, boom. Ambulance comes, off he goes, good to go. She's like, "Wow, that's really impressive. What kind of changes have you made that got it to this level?" We're like, "We've been doing it this way for years, ma'am. That's the way we do business." And she said, "Wow, that's really impressive." We said, "Well, we know, but thank you." Then she said, "Okay, so at what point do you call his mother?" And there was this awkward silence as all these SEALs looked around uncomfortably, like, And finally, the doctor spoke up. He had the moral courage to be like, "Hey, Senator, we don't." And, her jaw dropped. She looked shocked. He goes, "That's a HIPAA violation, because this is a grown man who signed on the dotted line and he takes this risk. If he wants to call his mother, he's more than welcome to call his mother. We don't prohibit that, but we are actually prohibited from calling anybody about a medical emergency like this by HIPAA. That's US law. By the way, you're the legislative branch. If you guys don't like that, you can change it." But so again, there's this perception that like, "Oh, these poor little boys who come and suffer here, and these mommies out there are so worried." Hey, I'm sorry, man. No, not the case. We're adults. This is war fighting. It's ugly. It's brutal. It's scary. It's hard. And there's going to be things that go wrong. We should be unapologetic about who we are and what we do. And we should stop worrying about what mommies think out there. It just is, it was unhealthy for our culture, and it creates unintended consequences when we allow that perception to persist. Those were tough to deal with.
That I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Especially just even have to deal with it.
Oh, dude. And the time of your day is consumed talking to some mom, dad, or some leader out there who is coddling to these expectations. Hey, you're not helping the problem right now.
Right.
And by the way, it's taking time out of my day where I'm now not focusing on training these candidates because I'm answering questions that this is US law.
Yeah. Shouldn't even have to be dealing with
Shouldn't you have to talk about this?
So here's one that I wouldn't have asked you if you were still in, but now you're retired, I will.
All right, send it.
As the commander of BUDS, how much pressure did you get to push through a female candidate?
It's a really, really good question. Here's what I'll say. DEI was absolutely starting to infiltrate the ranks of Naval Special Warfare, 100%. We had a DEI officer at Warcom. We had training events, where they said, hey, we need to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would always say I'm going to talk about equality of opportunity, not equity. Yeah. So I would kind of,
equality and equity are not the same thing.
Not the same thing. If you haven't researched the differences, Google them today, please. Big differences. So it was starting to infiltrate. Here's what I love. I was there at a unique place in time where we did have females coming through. In fact, during my command tour, we produced the first female SWIC warfighter ever. Mm-hmm. She is incredible. Impressed the hell out of me, and I made sure she earned it. We absolutely made sure she earned it. She did. She got no special favors. Yeah. We also had the first female come into Hell Week ever. It's the first one to make it that far going into Hell Week. And what was so refreshing to me is even though you had DEI infiltrating, I could feel it. It was there. And we felt it from DC 100%. Yeah. We were getting calls and pressure. Hey, just get one through. Yeah. What does that mean? Can you just give us one win? What do you mean? We have curriculum, we have criteria, we have standards. If they meet the standard, fantastic.
Yeah, right.
No problems. If they don't meet the standard, no, I'm not going to get one through, for your political agenda. So I was very fortunate that my bosses at the time 100% were aligned with you hold the standard. You hold the standard. In fact, it was great. The female quit the first day after Hell Week. She was phenomenal, but her body was just broken. Like it just destroyed her. Yeah. Destroyed her. Total stud. I pulled her in the room with my CMC afterward. Hey, what happened? By the way, we're a learning organization. What can we be doing better? You're clearly a minority here as a female. Did we provide you a quality of opportunity? Did you feel like you had a fair shot? All the questions. Absolutely. 100%. Yes, sir. Professional program. I was very proud of our instructors. But then in the report that went up, it was great. My Commodore at the time was talking to the Admiral and he said, hey, sir, just got to let you know, she didn't make it. She quit on after whatever. And the Admiral said, well, and this is Wyman Howard again. Love this dude. Yeah. He said, well, she didn't make it. Well, should we change the standard to accommodate that maybe? And the Commodore is like, no, sir. The standard's a standard. She just didn't make it. And then Wyman Howard goes, good. That was a test. You passed. So I was like, yes, we had such support at that leadership at that time. To hold the standard. So 100%, I guarantee with my reputation on the line, every female that got into the program earned everything she accomplished. And we held the line for sure.
Well, I'll say this, not as a service member, as an American, thank you, because this isn't a political thing. This is a national security
issue.
Right. And the standards cannot be changed for anything. I mean, if one day, some stud female becomes the first Navy SEAL, then
great.
Then good for her. But we could talk about the operational aspects of that after. But but the standard should never be compromised.
The standard. And like you said, and like I said, when we graduated the SWIC graduate, she was great because at her graduation, she pulled me aside before. She said, "Hey, sir, I don't want today to be about me." Mm-hmm. And I know there's pressure, but she said, "It's about my class. It's about us. It's about the team." And I was like, "Dude, I love that. That's exactly why you made it." And so in my speech, I said, listen, I appreciate that. I have to at least address this because you broke, you paved a path. So the way we framed it, it was great. We said, hey, today is like any other day. We are producing some SWIC warfighters. One just happens to be a female. So we welcome a sister into the brotherhood. And that's the only thing we do. And after that, just everything about the candidates.
I mean, for me personally, there's certain jobs that, I don't see a female fitting into that culture and it'd be a operational liability. It just Marine Corps infantry. I personally don't see that, but in a job like SWIC, I mean, I think that's a great place for a young woman to go and test her grit and go serve in that capacity. You know,
if they meet the standard, they meet the standard.
I think it's great.
We used to say the cold Pacific Ocean does not discriminate.
Yes.
She dishes out equal suffering to all. Whatever you look like, she doesn't care.
Well, I mean, I think statistically females carry more body fat, so they probably have an advantage there.
There you go. There you go. That's true. That's probably true. Yeah. So again, yeah. And that's the problem with equity, right? Is if you try to accommodate every individual person's strength or weakness and equalize the playing field, well, it's a never ending game. You know, so, okay, what's next? Short guys can do more pull-ups and push-ups because they have less distance to travel and less weight to push for that distance. So should we make them do more?
Everybody had a hole in their shoulder from the Zodiacs carrying the boats for me, but I had one on top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
you can't equalize it. And so it's a fool's errand to try. And so instead, we build the standard based upon the requirements. What is the warfighter requirements downrange? What do our missions require? What does our nation require? Now that determines the standard. And then the standard's the standard. And you meet it or you don't. But like you said, it's a national security issue if you start diluting the standard, because now you're diluting what the capability is downrange.
100%.
Yeah.
So in this generation, I've heard you mention before that this generation is different, but not weaker.
Right.
In some aspects, they're maybe even better.
Yeah.
What can you say about this current generation, becoming Navy SEALs? And who some of the candidates actually are?
Yeah, they're great. They're great. And it's super fun to make fun of the generation behind us, right? I mean, the boomers love to make fun of the Gen Xers. We love to make fun of the millennials. And now everyone loves to make fun of Gen Z. That's fine. Once we get past that part, it's important to, as leaders, understand that there are massive generational differences. And if we're not studying those and we're not evolving our leadership techniques to be relevant there, then we're making mistakes. And we're failing. And in an all-volunteer military, we're going to start driving them away, because one of the nuances I've noticed of Gen Z is they have a very low tolerance for BS. Whereas like a Gen Xer, a baby boomer would be yelling at me because this is the way they learned and it's what the World War II generation taught them and blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, well, roger that. Well, I'll just endure this, this incompetence or this toxic leader that I see at this level because, well, this is just the way it goes. Gen Xers are very impatient with that. And so they're going to vote with their feet. They may come to us. We may have a great surge right now of recruitment, but I can tell you, having talked with a lot of them in the teams right now, they're like, hey, I'm a little underwhelmed at what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to walk away from it. And so we're going to have retention problems, which is what we are seeing right now. They are, like I said, they're way more cognizant. Back in the day, we would work out and then we'd go eat pizza and drink a beer. They're more conscious of what they're putting into their bodies. They're dialing in their nutrition plans. So they're much more efficient machines, so to speak, physically. So they're showing up in better shape, I think, than we ever did. One of the things I've talked with Preston Klein about a lot at the Mission Critical Teams, and he's studied this stuff for years. The thing that they probably suffer at the most is, he calls it either resiliency or robustness. I can't remember the difference, but one he describes as the ability to take a punch, not physically, but symbolically. The next one was your ability to recover after that punch and get back in the game. So to pick yourself back up after failure. And I can't remember which one's which under his terminology, but that's what we've noticed where some of them suffer at. When they fail, they have a hard time getting back up and getting back in the game. They'll self-defeat and spiral sometimes. So a lot of people will be like, oh, they're just weaker because of that. No, that's not true. They are much more mindful than we are. They're much more aware of their surroundings, and their ability to maneuver through that space is way more astute than what we were going through. So there's some things they excel at way better than our generations, but there's some things they need to work at, like every generation. This doesn't mean they're just weaker. It means we need to tailor our leadership and start tailoring our program to figure out, okay, how do I build that in them then? Because we know we need that. They already have things that we love, but we know we need this as well. How do we add that into the curriculum? How do we help build that in and help them fall forward instead of self-defeat? And I've told stories about guys who failed one evolution in BUDS, total stud, was doing great, failed one evolution and quit. Don't do that, dude.
Right.
But you can't unring the bell in our community.
Right.
That's a sacred thing. Once you ring it, you ring it. You're done. Sorry, man. But okay, how do we get left of that decision? How do we help build some resiliency in that guy? Because he could have been a great SEAL, but he let himself spiral emotionally and cognitively after one failure and then quit. So I think that's what we need to kind of zone in on in our preparatory program and in boot camp as we're taking these these young Americans from their homes. I don't know how they were raised. Maybe they were helicopter parented. That seems to be a problem these days. Well, that's going to decrease your resilience if mommy and daddy removed all the obstacles from you as you grew up through your teenage years. Okay, I can't fix 18 years of that, but we can certainly start trying. We can certainly start baking in designed failure, organized failure, with left and right constraints and limits to help you grow through that. We can do that at boot camp. That's easy. These are like easy things to do that we should absolutely be doing to help them accommodate where their generation might need some work. But we should also be capitalizing on where they're great, and they're great in a lot of spots for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing to hear that, because you can't pick the culture.
No,
you got to take them from where they are to where you want them to be.
That's right.
That's leadership. Bring someone from where they are to where you want them to be.
That's right.
And that's a responsibility on the leader to do that. So to recognize that.
Yeah. Simon Sinek talks a lot about this in his Leaders Eat Last book. I love it.
Yeah.
And he basically said, hey man, you are a weak leader if you're just going to damn the next generation and criticize them instead of evolving as a leader. And they're going to vote with their feet, and your organization is going to implode from the inside out, because you'll be leading nobody very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations. You're a really good leader of nobody.
Alone. Yeah. Well, at the command, you faced, lots of issues. For those who hadn't seen, what Brad went through as commander of Buds during a tragic loss of one of the students, death of one of the students. Yeah. You could go back and watch Sean Ryan, but I want to talk about it a little bit here. But before I get into it, I kind of want to give my position on this.
Please.
When you're doing special operations training, a death of anyone is tragic. Like whether in training or in a battlefield, it's someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's brother, sister, friend. It's always tragic, but that death cannot change the standards that we have for this training. This training is very difficult and is dangerous, and accidents are going to happen, or things are going to happen. And so one of the things I just so much respected about you is that it would have been so easy to change things over this, to change training, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
Our nation depends on us not doing that.
Yeah.
And not being cowering to those kind of things. And so you really handle that well. And look,
thank you.
We can never compromise this training. It's so important. Yeah. This is the training that puts these these warriors at the tip of the spear that protects that we're going to go and sleep peacefully at night.
That's right.
Because of that. And
that's right.
You and I are both civilians now.
Yeah.
You are. By the way, if it didn't hit you yet, you're a civilian now.
I am a civilian.
Someone's protecting you now.
Yeah. So, it feels good.
Yeah. But so I just want to say that I stand with you on that.
Yeah. You're right. It's training for warfare and going to war. I mean, there is no more dangerous job out there. Mm-hmm. And you don't train for war by being totally safe. It involves risk. Measured risk, not reckless. We can't be reckless. I've talked a lot about risk over the years, but it's risk. And in that environment, while we should never accept death as the cost of doing business, we must also somehow reconcile the fact that it is a statistical inevitability. It's going to happen. At some point down the road, someone else is going to die at Buds. It's going to happen. And it may just be something like the dude's heart explodes because it's just really, really hard training. We see it all the time on sports fields, right? Like some athlete will just drop dead randomly. Their heart just gives out. When you put your body through that strain and that stress, things can happen. Accidents can happen. Mistakes can happen. You can't mitigate all those risks down to zero. And I've talked a lot about this, or you actually increase the risk, and it creates blind risk in a lot of ways. We have to work through that risk. And so there is a very strong temptation when something like this tragic happens. Well, let's create more policies. Let's fix this problem. Well, your first assumption was that there's a problem. And if you start your analysis with a false assumption, you're going to end up with conclusions and policies that are actually going to make things worse because you're not actually solving a problem. You might be creating more now. And it's tough. It's tough. But I do believe that we were a safe command before, and we have been a safe command after, and there wasn't much that was needed to be fixed. There's always small things. There's always things we can do better. Of course, no command is perfect. No command is ever resourced, perfectly either. And there's always the dream sheet of like, oh, if we had all the resources in the world, this is what we would do. This is what we would want. This is how we would run business. Well, okay, but we're dealing in a world of finite constraints and real limitations. So I appreciate it. It's a hard line to hold when something goes wrong, because there is a very strong temptation to say, let's fix this. Okay. Nothing was broken.
Right.
Nothing was broken.
So the candidate was Kyle Mullins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the incident was during Hell Week.
It was after Hell Week. So Hell Week was complete. We go through a very rigorous medical process after Hell Week and even through Hell Week, like mandatory every day you're getting screenings here. And multiple physicians looked at him, clear bill of health, talked to him, no issues at all. I mean, swollen legs, my knees hurt, whatever.
Sure.
He'd had some breathing problems early in the week, but those had cleared up, and he didn't complain of any breathing problems. 3 physicians looked at him. Okay, that's pretty rigorous, pretty thorough. Even after the inspections, when he was told to rest in his room, one of the physicians did a last minute walk around. Everything's fine. He's laying down listening to music under no distress at all, drinking a Gatorade. And then at the time, all we knew was that he quickly decompensated and died. And one of the criticisms was, well, where was your medical? Why weren't they on site? Well, because we had finished medical and he had been given a relatively clean bill of health. And we were never staffed or equipped or mandated or chartered to be a mission to have a emergency room hospital that's on call 24/7 all the time. That's just not how we were equipped. And there was never a need for that. And so it's an unfair criticism. It'd be the same as saying, if you went to the ER, and they looked at you, you got some problems, but you're doing pretty well. Go home. And if you have a problem, call 911 or talk to your doctor in the morning. That's really the equivalent of how it went at that point. Now, like it or not, that was how we were staffed and mission. That's what we were funded for and manned for. Well, then he quickly decompensated and died.
What's decompensated?
Sorry, it means it starts just taking. All his vitals start to go down.
Okay.
And we had Navy certified watchstanders there, still on call, walking around, asking guys how they're doing, checking in on them. So it's another misnomer. Back to you had kids watching him. No, I had grown adults who were Navy certified watchstanders watching him.
Right.
Well, that's not enough. Well, okay. That's a matter of debate, and we can change that policy later. But at the time, that was what we were doing.
To sit in the hospital, it's buds.
Right. That's right. That's right. And so what we know now from obviously from all the evidence that came forward was that he had been using performance enhancing drugs, and at the time, some candidates brought him drugs after our med checks were complete, and our staff was kind of walking away and not getting full eyes on anymore. He took some of those drugs, and it was at that moment, shortly after that, he started decompensating and died. Those watchstanders didn't necessarily, I don't think they knew he took the drugs, but they saw him decompensating, and they asked him multiple times, hey, you want me to call 911? You don't look great. And he denied medical care, I think three separate times. And so, you have a right as an American citizen to deny medical coverage. And that's really what happened. He was never denied medical care. He actually turned it down when it was offered. We can go back and armchair quarterback this a lot, and we have, and there's things we can always do better. And we're doing it a little bit better now to protect candidates from themselves a little bit better. But that's really what we're talking about here. And the criticisms of Buds at the time, in my mind, are a bit unjust and unfair because, well, at what length are we expected to go to protect someone from their own bad choices? Ultimately, we're human beings and we're going to make mistakes. And people are going to make bad choices. There's consequences. There's responsibility that's involved there, personal responsibility. And again, those choices don't mean the command failed. It doesn't mean I failed. Am I responsible? 100%. I've always accepted responsibility for my command. But there's a massive element of personal responsibility here that was ignored and then covered up in order to, I don't know why, for political expediency. We've talked a lot about it, but yeah.
Here's one of the problems I've always had with the military. I love the military. Obviously, you do too. But here's one of the problems I've always had is that when something happens, whether intentional or accidental or just by circumstances, going to happen when you're doing the kind of work we do, somebody has to be a sacrificial lamb. Yeah. Someone has to pay.
Right. Right.
I don't understand why that is.
I don't either.
But it seems like that was the case with this.
Yeah, it was. And in the Navy, we've abused it's like a logical fallacy in the Navy, really. It's turned into one where they'll say, well, the CO has to go down with the ship, you understand. Well, you were in command, you understand. It's like, hang on a minute. Let's trace that back. Like, where does that come from? And that's become a very big thing. I lost count of the people that said that. Well, you understand. And to be clear, let me back up. When Kyle died, one of the first conversations I had with my boss was, hey, I was in command. I understand what that looks like. If you need a sacrificial lamb, if the community needs me to hang for this, I'm willing to do that for the love of the Trident, for the love of our community. So I acknowledged that and offered it. However, it needs to be on truth. Mm-hmm. So when they started lying about it all and then using that as the reason to come after me, so I said, no, that's absolutely not going to happen. And my instructors more than me. But yes, you're right. And if you go back to like the Navy's roots and where we were great, you start looking at like World War II era Navy officers. Some of our legendary naval leaders that we name ship classes after today had things go wrong when they were skipper, when they were CO, whether it's running a ship aground or having a collision at sea or whatever. They had things go wrong and they survived it as leaders. They didn't go down with the ship. It was really only like, I want to say 70s through the 90s timeframe where the Navy started abusing that term and like twisting our history to create this thing that is really, they created it out of thin air based off of really no operational justification or wartime examples of where this actually worked, guys. And they just started crucifying ship COs because something happened. And so, well, you were responsible, so we're going to fire you. Well, hang on. Are you firing him because he was incompetent as a leader and that's what caused the thing to go wrong? Or are you just firing him because he's in command? Because if you're doing that, well, you're not really assessing and measuring him based off of his leadership competency. And that could be really bad because he may be the exact guy you want to stay in this job to learn from this as a learning organization, because now all you're doing is creating all these other people who are afraid of anything going wrong. So instead of actually pursuing the art of warfare and embracing and aggressively tackling risk, you're going to, over time, create risk-averse commanding officers who are like, well, I just don't want something to go wrong because I don't want my career and reputation to be damaged.
We see that.
We see it 100%. 100%. All across the Navy. Our Navy has lost its way in a lot of ways. This is one of them, but we just keep doing it.
Yeah. What were some of the lies and when did the lies surface?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first, as I offered up my career, like, hey, take me. They said, hey, Brad, no, it's pretty clear that, the drugs were a contributing factor in his death, if not the causing factor. Like, we're fine. Like, everything's going to be fine. And I've said it before. They were saying, hey, we're all under the boat with you. Like, this is going to be fine. We're going to get past this. This is a black swan event in Naval Special Warfare, and we're going to get past this. And it was really only when I started noticing, I think the first indication was a false investigation that started painting this picture that I was ignoring the PEDS problem. And that was the first time I was taken to mast over that. And I showed evidence which said, hey, actually, no, here's all the things we were doing. We were aggressively tackling this problem as soon as we were made aware.
Meaning like students taking performance enhancement.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, you were turning a blind eye. Oh, okay. I wasn't. So here's all the evidence which shows I wasn't. And the minute I showed that, they were like, hey, okay, got it. Captain's mast is dismissed. You're fine. You're good. Yep. We just got some false info. You're fine. Move on, Brad. So that's weird that they would create this false persona of what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. But then it's like, that didn't stop it. So then the next thing was, well, what's the next argument? And then I saw the press release where they said, hey, drugs did not contribute to his death. And that was a Navy press release that Chinfo released from the SecNav's floor. And I said, well, that's a lie.
Yeah. And a big statement.
Yeah. I mean, that's an overt lie because the investigation that I read when I was charged with mass the first time said drugs were a contributing factor. That's what they concluded. And the independent review by the 3-star Surface Forces Pacific Command validated that assessment and actually doubled down on it. So how did we lie? And once I started peeling the onion back, it turns out, what do you mean you changed the investigation? What do you mean you didn't like the findings at the CNO level, so you directed them to fix it? So the new investigation no longer said it. And then now you say it on the press release floor. And I looked around and said, this is a violation. This is a betrayal of our core values, honor, courage, and commitment. This is a problem. And that's when I started really getting uncomfortable with, well, hang on a minute. If drugs didn't kill him, what did? And that's when they started this new investigation, right? And if you get back to, if you started an investigation upon a false assumption,
right, something was wrong. That something was wrong.
That something was wrong. And if you start it with drugs didn't kill him, and that's your guidance going into this, which we know it was, well, then you're going to find you're going to create something else that did kill him, an excuse, a reason for accountability, and create this new perceived need for accountability, all based upon a lie. And you're going to willfully ignore evidence that would contradict your presupposition. This is confirmation bias. I mean, psychologists, nothing's new here. This is human nature. And they just did it. And I'm looking around as it's happening like, hey, this is a problem. Like, hey, everybody, I don't think we should allow this. Why aren't we?
Who are you going to?
So I started with leadership within Naval Special Warfare.
Okay.
I started with a couple 06s, like post-major commanders, like I have concerns. It felt so silly because these are like those ethical case studies that you read about, like the Naval Academy. And you're like, well, that would never happen. Like, no one's going to overtly lie. And you're in this moral dilemma where you have to confront them on the lie. No, it happened.
Yeah.
And as an 06, I felt like I was taking crazy pills. And I'll say like, you talk physical courage in combat's one thing. It's actually relatively easy. Maybe not, I don't want to be flippant about it, but that was fun. Like you said, we had fun. This was like a fun time in combat for us. This moral courage was the most difficult thing I've ever been faced with by far. To look at senior leaders who have rank and authority over me and confront them on moral failings that at first it was very much questions. Like we talked this morning about the verse, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God, from the book of James. And that was the model we took for a long time, was like, okay, quick to listen. Let's get our facts straight. Let's not overreact. Is this what it looks like? And then certain insiders were feeding us intel, in a sense, like some guy on an email chain is like, hey, Brad, there was an email that was written that basically all admits that they were lying about this. You need to see this. This is pretty bad. I don't think this is going to go well. And so we had, thankfully, people who still stand for honor, courage, and commitment, standing with us, even in the shadows, but feeding us information, which is really what gave us the ability to confront these lies and say, hey, I have a problem here. And you should too. And instead of getting senior leaders to agree and say, you're right, because it was irrefutable evidence we had, irrefutable. I mean, black and white. Instead, they would either defend the lies. Brad, it's just a press release. What are you worried about? Well, I'm worried that as an institution, we're lying. Shouldn't we all be worried about that? This is what you taught me at the Naval Academy 30 years ago, by the way. We should be concerned about that. And some would justify the lies. Brad, this is what we do. We protect the institution. And once that narrative was decided, and then I found out, what do you mean that SEAL senior leader was in on that meeting and heard that said? I used to respect that guy. So he sat there while they all agreed to lie and he didn't say anything? He didn't stand up for our community? Okay, well, that's weird. So then I'd go a next level up and I'd start writing letters. Hey, sir, I have a problem. I'm seeing moral failings. I am seeing violations of joint ethics regulations. I am seeing the law being broken. I have concerns. Help me understand this. Help me reconcile it. Please partner with me as we pursue truth here. And as we can actually like fix this problem. I think there's still ways to fix this. We can still correct the narrative. Apathy. Brad, no one wants to hear that. Okay, I get it. It's inconvenient. So, all right, let me start CCing the CNO and stuff. Let me start CCing the SOCOM commanding general and stuff. Let me start crying for help and going up the chain. Every way they taught you to do the Naval Academy, go up the chain, up the chain, up the chain. And I just saw apathy and hypocrisy at every level. Every level. It was so disappointing because I had such faith and hope in this institution that it was what I thought it was.
When they say protect the institution, what were they trying to protect?
So the initial lie, because once an institution decides on a narrative, and if they know it's a lie,
then they have to protect.
They have to protect that because they'll never want to go back. How often does the Navy actually apologize and say we messed something up here? Never. They should. I shouldn't say never. They've done it like once or twice. Study the Captain McVeigh story from World War II. If you want to know how long it takes the Navy to apologize for something, that dude died by suicide after the Navy put him through an unjust court-martial. And it wasn't until the Clinton era that the Navy actually apologized. So it's very rare. And this, I really do believe our story will one day be a case study at the Naval Academy and the ethics department, because it's a great example of how an institutional lie at a very small level, and even for the right reasons, right? Well, we're trying to protect the family, and we're trying to protect his name from being dragged through the mud. A well-meaning lie at a very low level can become over time, massive institutional deception and corruption at the highest levels, because they will defend the lie instead of going back and saying, we didn't have all the facts. We made a mistake. We stretched the truth a little bit. Our bad.
Yeah.
And so that was what they meant. Well, we have to protect the narrative. We have to protect the institution, which means we have to back up this lie, and we have to hold you accountable, Brad.
That's what I was saying. At what point did it become consequential for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the beginning, because it was a crisis of conscience, and I was losing faith in the institution that I love so much that I just spent, what are we talking now? Like we just said, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
That is a massive crisis of conscience. And it was taking a huge toll on me emotionally, cognitively. And it was really once they charged me with MAST again, that was when I knew, like, okay, this is a problem, because the guy that decided that, I'm going to take you to MAST again, Brad.
Can you explain for the listeners?
MAST.
What MAST
It's a good question. So think of a court in the legal system, and what they've done over, which is a needed thing within the military. They've created non-judicial punishment system, or UCMJ. If you've ever saw the movie, what was the movie? JAG, or the show they used to do?
Show JAG, yeah.
Yeah, JAG, great.
Yeah.
Watch that. Or watch
the lawyer for doing free fall jumps and
or A Few Good Men. And you can start to understand the military court system. Yeah. And basically what it is non-judicial punishment is a mechanism they give the military that is shy of the law. In other words, short of all the legal bounds and constraints, but still a way to reinforce good order and discipline, to punish people, that is shy of like crimes. It's great. It's needed. It's necessary. I've utilized it as a commander multiple times, and there's times when it's very appropriate. What I noticed happen with a lot of cases these days, and this is an institutional failure, is that NJP system is built upon the precedent of law. And these are precedents that are given and provided to the military that we have taken for granted over the years as an institution, and we've abused. And instead of relying on the precedent of law, a lot of the military commanders out there have just decided, well, I can just kind of do what I want to do. And I need to use this in this mechanism because, well, people need to see that I did something.
Right. Even
if nothing was warranted, I need to do something, and we need to see tangible results. The military is great at showing tangible results.
Somebody died, something has to be done.
Something has to be done, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this. But back to the legal example, and this is what I like to use as a parallel here. That admiral knew. He told me to my face, "Hey, Brad, this investigation was deliberately manipulative. I know it. You know it. They absolutely falsified information here. They created things that didn't exist out of thin air." He himself signed a 70-page rebuttal to that investigation. Okay. But he still used that investigation to charge me with MAST, with NJP, and pursue accountability. So the equivalent would be in a courtroom if a judge starting a trial said, "Hey, everybody, we're here to do this trial against this person. I know for a fact the police falsified this entire investigation and it's full of nothing but lies. But we still have to let this process play out, and we're still going to pursue this court, and we're going to try this person here by a jury, or actually not even by a jury, by me, because I feel like there's something that needs to be done here, and I need to reinforce good order and discipline in this courtroom."
Which would never happen.
It would never happen. He'd throw the case out with prejudice, punish the cops for producing a false investigation, and totally absolve the person that was just pitted against by the system. But that's not what happens in the military. "Oh, no, we need to let this process play out, Brad." Well, then if you do that, you are contradicting the legal precedent that your authorities are built on, which is now a violation of your oath of office. You have failed as a leader when you do that. And they'll say, "Well, yeah, but I have a good reason to believe that something went wrong." Okay, well then let's have a discussion about that. But you cannot pursue any kind of punishment or even non-judicial punishment if you know that the investigation is false and manipulative, which everybody knew.
Right.
So that's where Naval Special Warfare failed in this as well. And it was all well-meaning. I don't think these people meant me ill will. I don't think they were malicious against me. I know them to be very kind people. But I think they failed as leaders there. And I think the institution failed in allowing all that to happen.
So at what point did you realize that I have to save myself?
Yeah.
I have to speak out publicly.
So it wasn't even about me.
Yeah.
When I read that investigation, there were like 10 names they recommended non-judicial punishment for.
Okay.
And about 7 of those were my instructors. One of them was my boss, and then the other one was the senior medical officer as well. And that's when I sat down with my wife and we looked at each other and like, I'll be damned if I'm going to allow these lies to hurt these men who I know served honorably, I know did the right thing, I know held the standard, but stayed within the left and right limits of curriculum execution. There's no way we're going to let this happen. And that's when we really started pushing back. And that's when I started reaching out to congressmen and saying, hey, I've addressed this at Navy levels and they're ignoring me. Don't believe me because I'm a compelling storyteller or you think it's a good story. Here's the evidence I have. You assess and tell me what you think. Every one of them, as you know, has staffs who just digest this stuff. And every single one of them came back like, holy smokes, we're on your team. This is ludicrous. How in the world is this even being discussed? So that's a great question. And it was just congressman after congressman, senator after senator started jumping on board. And then at some point we decided to cross the threshold into the press because one of the things I noticed about the Navy, and this is another broken thing, instead of making decisions based upon our core values, is this decision consistent with honor, courage, and commitment? They started making decisions based upon perceived perceptions. Well, what do we think the public's going to think about this? What do we think the narrative looks like? Does this look like a black eye? And if so, let's make our decisions around that. So they're letting the tail wag the dog. Yeah. I've been in meetings where a negative press release will come up by the Navy if something happened. Instead of actually addressing the merits of the story and the truth behind what actually happened, the conversation is, well, pull up the graph so we can see the clicks and the likes and the comments. Do we need to be concerned or not based upon the public's perception of this article?
And that's the game they're playing.
That's the game they're playing.
You can't pick the game.
No.
You can pick how you play in it.
So that's driving their narrative and that's driving their decisions. Well, that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
You're going to end up doing exactly what they did. You're going to make decisions inconsistent with our core values because you're chasing a perception instead of, back to our first conversation, being unapologetic about what we do and who we are. We are warfighters. We're rough around the edge. I got it. I'm sorry that upsets some mommies out there. Not really sorry. How about this? You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah. So being inserted in that game, the public eye, that's when you go on Sean Ryan's show.
Yep.
And
went big
and just tell the story.
Yeah. And we started small. And we were very careful to navigate that ethically and within the left and right limits of UCMJ, as you know, very tight.
Yeah. Because there could be consequences for that as well.
Absolutely. And there always are, you know, and there were, but we were very good. We had very good lawyers and a lot of times on our knees praying to make sure, you know, we are back to slow to speak, you know, quick to listen. We spent a lot of time with that sword sheathed, ready to speak, but not ready. And a lot of time in prayer there. And we kept hearing counsel and the Lord say, not yet. And I was like, why? Like, I'm ready. Like, you know, you raised me a fighter. Like, why can't I fight yet? And I know now looking back, I wasn't ready because I was early on very angry, very frustrated, bitter about these people that were betraying us, that were betraying our core values, that were cheapening the Trident, they were cheapening the Navy anchor. And if I spoke then, it would have been out of anger. It would have been out of vindictiveness. It would have been out of hurt. And those arguments never carry that much weight. I think they fall flat a lot of times. We talked about that when you're speaking from anger.
Yeah, being retaliatory is.
You just sound like, that person's just whining over there. So I know now in my personal journey, I had to find a way to get to forgiveness for those people. And the only way I could get there was through submitting to God's sovereignty. And I've told that story too. And once I did that, we had peace. Once I had peace, now we're free to actually fight because now we can fight from a place of love for the Navy, love for the institution, love for Naval Special Warfare, even love for my enemies because, hey, we can't let these things go unanswered. I can't let you sit up there with 3-4 stars, on your collar and lie about our organization without being confronted on that. It's done out of love for them, love for the institution now. And so I look back, I'm like, okay, Lord, that's why you were telling me to take a knee. That's why we had to keep the sword sheathed. But when we decided to pull it, when we felt it was time, SEALs don't mess around. When you pick a fight with us, we'll fight and we'll take it to the end.
It was effective. It was at least from my purview, it was effective.
It was. I mean, it worked. It worked.
It was a roll of a dice. It was a gamble for you.
It was, we were walking through a thick fog, having no idea where it would go. Lots of risk. But every time we made a decision, we did it prayerfully. And we said, hey, are we making this decision? Okay, back to my conflict with the Navy. They're making decisions based upon perceived perceptions. We said, what are our principles that we care the most about? Are we making this decision based upon those principles? And when those principles conflict, what's our hierarchy of principles? Which one is more important than the other? And which one are we willing to compromise for the one that's more important? And is that valid? Is that a good place to be? And we would deconstruct that every single time.
You say we, who's this?
My family,
Okay.
me and my wife primarily. And we bring the kids in and my fam jam, we call it. We have an extended family. We're on one text
You had
thread.
like a few other team guys that were implicated in this. And you were
We did. So they were some of my confidants as well as we went through this. So we would consult with all of them. And in the end, we said, hey, listen, if we take this step based upon our principles and what we believe in is right here, then no matter where it takes us, even if the roll of the dice doesn't pan out, because you're not guaranteed victory here.
Sure.
Even if it doesn't pan out, well, then I won't regret what we did because it was done for the right reasons. And so that's worth the cost. And we weighed that cost as a family. We said, hey, this might cost me my retirement. It might cost me my rank. And it very, very close did. Right up to the end, they were trying to demote me. 2 ranks, I found out. Just vindictive, evil people. But if it costs us that, okay, we're willing to pay it for the sake of these principles. That's moral courage. Standing up saying, we're weighing the cost, we assess that, and we're willing to pay it. Let's go. Now, we don't want it. We're going to fight it. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and let it all happen. But if that was the end state, okay, I'd still be sitting here with just as much resolve and just as much peace that we made the right decisions because everyone was made based upon our principles.
100%.
Yeah.
Such a great lesson in there.
Dude,
for everybody.
hard.
You don't have to be in your position to do that. People deal with that every day in their life, right?
And it starts small, right? If you're put in these big positions, you don't rise to the occasion. You get there because you've made a bunch of small decisions like this over time that has built up your resiliency, that has built up your resolve, your integrity. It's just like our muscles, right? You break them down, but you got to give them rest and nutrition, and you got to break them down the right ways to build them back stronger. It's the same thing cognitively. It's the same thing morally. It's almost like there's a formula out there. Same thing spiritually. It's almost like there's this formula out there. Like you have to suffer in order to get stronger. You're not going to be able to bench 315 on day one, and you're not going to be able to handle a moral dilemma like this on day one. It takes incremental efforts. It takes those building blocks. It takes the breakdown and the buildup. It takes the failures. Looking back saying like, golly, I messed that one up. I totally failed to have moral courage when I should have. I should have spoken up and I didn't. I'm a turd. I hate myself for that. Okay, let's not spend time in guilt. Let's regret, learn, build, evolve, get better next time. Next time I'll do better.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's resilience.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It's just it's a process. It's a growth process for sure.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode with Brad Geary. We are going to cut here and pick back up next week for part 2. And so stay tuned, like, share, comment. And if you're not done so yet, make sure you go and join our Patreon. We need your support there. So finish it up next week and stay resilient. Hey, what's up, Resilient family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind the scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.